Good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be here with you. And I'm very pleased to interview Mireille.
Thank you, Xavier.
So we are two French people, and maybe I will introduce myself first. I'm kind of a French connection with French entrepreneurs. So if you're interested with French entrepreneur, I am the one to connect with. Maybe some of you remember, but that was 15 years ago. Our president, George Bush, said, you know, France, they don't have even the word entrepreneur in French. And I was like really shocked because actually entrepreneur is a French word, right?
Right. Well.
So, I was thinking we need to do something about that. And I did something. So I'm a founder of a French tech hub, which was the largest accelerator of French startup in the US. And I am a French tech ambassador. And I can tell you a lot about what's happening in France, but this is not the topic of today's discussion. So today's discussion is about Mireille, the CEO of Orange Lab. So you will tell us about yourself, you will tell us about Orange Lab, and then, and this is the connection, we'll talk about Africa, investment in Africa. And you know why? Because there is many link between France and Africa, and Mireille spent many years over there. She's familiar with startup over there, with investment, so we'll talk about that. Mireille, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Good morning, everyone. I think we're still in the morning. So I'm Mireille Helou. I've been with Orange for the last 18 years. I consider myself a citizen of the world. I've been traveling a lot through my career. And I have been in different positions within Orange, starting in B2B, moving to sourcing and supply chain, regional. My first contact with Africa was through my regional role. I had a regional role across our African and Middle Eastern footprint. And I moved to Kenya in 2013 and stayed there for 3 years to run our operation there. And my last position was running the telco operations for those who know the French territories in the Indian Ocean, Réunion and Mayotte. These are small islands there. So I was running the telco business there.
Thank you, Mireille. So Orange Lab. So I don't know if you know Orange Lab in San Francisco. It's actually a very nice office. You have like 50 people.
Yeah,
what
maybe a few words before talking about Orange Lab, maybe a few words about Orange, because I'm not sure everyone in the room knows what Orange is about. Orange is a multi-service operator present in 28 countries. 20 plus of those countries are based in Africa and the Middle East. 40 billion plus revenues, euro revenues, 264 million customers, 110 million out of those are based in Africa and Middle East. So we have an important customer base, and we do telecommunication, of course, because this is our core business, but we started financial services with mobile money in Africa, have founded a bank a few years, 2 or 3 years ago, and we operate in cybersecurity, etc., etc. So coming back to Orange Silicon Valley, we have been established here as an outpost innovation hub for the last 20 years. We were one of the first corporate to set foot in the Silicon Valley, and we started as a research and development center and moved into working on innovation with the ecosystem and with the startups to look into whatever is happening here from a technological and innovation view, and which might impact our own business, and our business is expanding, but also the business of our corporate customers. So we are 50 people, mostly technology and business profiles, and we look at the trends and what's happening here in order to make sure that we know the trends. We are part of strategy, how to influence the strategy of Orange going forward.
Thank you, Mireille. So maybe let's talk about Africa entrepreneur and investment over there. We had a discussion about the motivation of entrepreneur, and I think it's an interesting discussion, you know, the social net and all of that. So could you share with us why African entrepreneurs are motivated to start something?
I mean, when we look at Africa, Africa is 52 countries, I think. It's the continent, it's a leapfrog continent when it has been I talked about mobile money. The early adoption in Africa is very important. People have adopted, the platform is mobile. They stepped into mobile without going through the fixed network, and this has enabled a lot of things. The second thing is, as you said, the social net. There is no social net in Africa, and you have a lot of talents that are, the quality of the talents is quite impressive. It's as good as European talent and US talents. At the same time, there are great needs. The gap of infrastructure is huge, and this brings people to respond to day-to-day, to be innovative in responding and solving day-to-day problems. This is why mobile money took off as quickly as it did in Africa. In 2020, mobile money would be, maybe a few numbers. The annual net revenue captured by Africa mobile money would be $14 billion. Africa has the fastest growing middle class in the world. By 2020, the consumer spending of this class would be $1.4 trillion. So this is huge. The growth of the market is huge. So what makes Africa innovative and what makes the investment interesting, and because there is a lot of untapped potential and potential to tap into. In 2050, we expect 205 billion person to live in Africa. So this is really huge. The capacity, the size of the market is really inducing people to invest in Africa. And we have started seeing this dynamic 5 years ago when US VCs started looking, started having interest in Africa, to start with as business angels. And now in 2018, we have seen a huge acceleration at the same time in the number of deals and the amount of deals. So 2018, the investment were $1.2 billion. It's still a small amount, but this it has doubled between 2017 and 2018. So these indicators are very encouraging. The narrative is very good about Africa at the moment.
So let me be maybe more specific, because you say it's 52 countries. So when we are talking about Africa, in which specific countries you can find opportunity, you can find startup?
Today, the 3 countries that are driving innovation and investment in Africa are Nigeria, to start with, because of the size of the market. It's the biggest. South Africa is another one. And the third one is Kenya. And Kenya, maybe not because of the local size, but Kenya addresses adjacent market like Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and Rwanda, which makes it the third country. This is other countries, West Africa is starting. It's not at all at the same level, but there are a lot of. We have almost more than 100 investing funds that are operating in Africa. In 2018, 51 are considered to be active and viable. And they are, part of them, 22 out of those 51 are based in Africa and African, the rest is US, Europe, etc. So again, we see innovation coming from Nigeria. We've seen M-Pesa, the mobile money, the first. Of course, Orange has its own mobile money, which is a cross, because M-Pesa is more in Kenya. Most investment today are in the financial services, in mobile money, because of the amount of unbanked people in Africa, and this is responding to their needs to transact money in a different manner. And more than half of the investment are in the fintech, like we call it here.
Okay, so fintech is one sector. And what do you see, what else, what kind of vertical, what kind of application do you see over there?
We see e-commerce picking off. We have the first unicorn. Well, there are discussions whether Jumia is African or not African. One indicator is that Jumia employs 5,000 people in Africa, even though the founders are not African. So e-commerce is definitely one domain where we are seeing a lot of happening. A second one is anything about logistic and supply chain. Because again, we're talking infrastructure and lack of infrastructure, and this is responding to those problematics.
And maybe a question regarding Orange in Africa. So you have a strong presence over there. And you do investment in startup, right?
Yeah, actually we do investment. We have Orange Digital Venture is our entity which does investment. It's a 150 million euros fund, out of which $50 million are focused on Africa, and we have teams based in Senegal which operate from there in order to invest with.
So I'm playing the startup, you know, usually I'm with startup and you have a big corporation. So imagine that I'm a startup, I have a potential for Africa. Can I imagine that Orange could be a partner investing in my company and helping me to expand in Africa?
Yes, and we have a few examples of this. We're an investor in Jumia. We have recently invested in Africa Talk, which is an equivalent of Twilio in the US, which is one of the characteristics, and it's quite amazing in Africa, is that we invested in this Africa Talk Series A. It was already profitable. Why? Because of the scarcity of the investment in this country. Entrepreneurs have to prove themselves earlier, and the quality of the entrepreneurs is kind of higher, and this is driving good companies which are becoming profitable, and including companies who are taking their markets elsewhere than Africa. Either US, there is another unicorn which we can mention, which is Zipline, who didn't find, because Africa's regulatory was more favorable than in the US, the drones. So they found a market in Rwanda to distribute blood. So actually they are delivering blood to places of the world where you couldn't reach otherwise than with drones.
I think it's very interesting. I mean, Orange as an investor, Orange as a distribution partner, that's a very compelling story for startup, and because it's not just Africa, I mean all the country you have a presence, and actually I have a personal story about that.
Oh, please.
It happens that the second company I started, the company was NetCentrix in voice over IP, was actually a spin-off of Orange in France. And our first customer was Orange, and the company was very successful. We raised 50 million. We grew like crazy. So yes, I can testify Orange is a good partner.
It definitely is. And again, whenever we do invest in things, we do strategic investments, so it needs to align with our strategic domains, connectivity. But as I said, we are very present in Africa. We also do energy, we do agriculture, we do education, and these are new verticals that we invest also into.
Very good. So thank you. I don't know if, in terms of time, where we are we good, Paul? 4 minutes. Maybe another question regarding Africa. We like story, you know. So you were mentioning one of the company, Jula, right? Jumia. So you invested in this company. Could you tell us? I mean, we like entrepreneur story, what they are doing, how they are growing. What's the opportunity there?
I think Jumia is a good story, but I think there are two other stories I'd like, and not necessarily Orange did not necessarily invest in those, but they are good stories to talk about. One of them is about an entrepreneur whose name is Gregory Roxon, and who is from Ghana. Who came to the US to study, and he was 18 years. He was planning to study into medicine because he had a personal problem. He grew up with a thoracic sclerosis, and then he switched and did political science studies. And he ended up founding, and he's the CEO of M-Pharma. We were talking about logistics. Because when growing up, he saw the challenges his parents were facing in order to procure the medicines for him, the drugs for him, to treat his. So there were shortages of medicine. The price was up and down, and he founded M-Pharma in order to respond to this problem. He has been growing multi-country. Today he has developed a partnership with all the pharmaceuticals across the world, and he has added one financial element to his solution, where people who contributes, which helps people to fund to microfinancing in order to pay for the drugs. So that's a great story. And Pharma is growing. They have raised 22 million US dollars so far, and they really are expanding their market. Another example is a company named Tala, who is now going to India. They are very much interested into what they have developed, again, around financial services, and which is opening their market to India. So these are really success stories which not only embrace the development and the growth of Africa, but ideas that are being transposed into other places in the world. Jumia, just coming back to Jumia. Jumia is an e-commerce platform, and today, looking at Jumia, I think it's 44 ex-Jumia people who have founded their own startups. So this is kind of boule de neige, snowball story, success
effect,
story.
Yeah. Boule de neige in French, snowball effect. So we have investors in this room as well. If they are interested in Africa, they can connect to you.
Yes,
you can
definitely.
Help them.
I will connect them with our Orange Digital venture. And again, it's Africa is a leapfrog continent. There is a lot happening, and whatever has been happening lately is a good story and a promising story for the future.
Very good. Mireille, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Let's give her a
Xavier.
very big round of applause, and thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you so much.